Ask the Mayor. Your chance to ask the Mayor of Weymouth questions about the town and or anything else that you have concerns about. Ask the Mayor is pre-recorded. And now it's Mayor Bob Hedlund.
Hey, welcome back and Happy New Year. It's the first episode of 2021 and you have tuned in to Ask the Mayor. I'm your citizen advocate and co-host, Jim Melody. And as always, we're joined with the Honorable Mayor of the town of Weymouth, Robert Hedlund. Bobby, how are you in 2021?
So far, so good.
Awesome. It's early, of course.
This is, I think, the longest we've gone between shows.
Yeah, the last time we did one was in November, so is this a good time to
We've
start?
been busy. WETC has been very busy.
Lots of things going on in the town, as always, which is why Ask the Mayor was created in the first place. People have questions. They want answers. Are you ready, sir?
Questions and critiques. I realized just as we flipped the lights on that I was criticized for a coffee cup that was present.
Son of a gun.
And I just realized as we started the show, I had the same coffee cup that someone criticized me for having here. There's no coffee in it. I use it to drink water throughout the course of the day rather than get a new cup, try to be environmentally conscious. And I realized when we started the show, I put it in here. Hopefully it's disguised enough. Nobody's going to be able to tell what coffee cup I have in here, are they?
It's like that old comedian's bit, Johnny Carson. He said, I flew out last night to be on the show because I'm on national television. I can't tell you the name of the airline, but Johnny said I could say the initials, TWA. Okay, Robert, I don't mean to digress, but you know that's my specialty. What was the complaint about the cup? The cup?
I think probably the concept that it might have been providing free advertising for that particular.
Yes, which I could
but I never really thought about that. But I think it's a valid point because I used to complain in the Senate when people came in with the rules say no food or beverages, and there's a water cooler in there with cups. But people used to walk in with the Poland Spring bottles and have them on there in front of their desk while we were in debate. And I thought that was not copacetic with the rules, and it was promoting a particular brand. And every time I complained, the Senate President ruled you're right under the rules, and they would make the people the senators remove their Poland Spring bottle or whatever it was. But it was a slippery slope with the rules. After a while, you'd see people coming in with 7-Eleven big gulps and putting it there. I'm serious. No, I'm serious. It used to drive me crazy, so I get the point. But this isn't exactly like the Massachusetts State Senate in midst of debate. You know what I mean?
That would be an accurate statement. Here we have.
If it were, we would both have to have suit and tie on too. So
we take a much more
let's get into
casual
the
approach
questions.
to the administration and the government of the town of Weymouth. And Robert, on that note, we have our first question. Dear Mr. Hedlund, the title of the email is Reopen the Pratt Library. As a senior citizen of Weymouth, I am very proud of the many projects you have initiated and completed. We have state-of-the-art schools, parks, and sports fields that are great for our young. I have visited our new library quite a few times. It is very beautiful and able to handle many large and small programs. That said, as a senior citizen and after speaking to many of my senior friends, I would like you to consider reopening the Pratt Library. I'm sure you realize the landmark building is very senior-friendly in size, access, parking, and convenience for those of us that just want to read a good book. Please think about it. Sincerely, Janet Burns.
Well, we have our crew here is very familiar with that facility because of their facility in the basement.
I thought it was written by Jeff, as a matter of fact.
Well, I don't know about a landmark, but I think we have a new landmark with the new library. But when we went down this road to weigh whether or not the investment in the new library is worth it, we looked at the current situation. We realized that we had really more branch libraries per capita than all but 2 communities in the state.
Oh, that's an interesting stat.
The amount of hours that the 2 small branches, Pratt and North Weymouth, were open. While, yes, a nice service for some, based on usage and hours, it wasn't something that made sense long term. Pratt is a little bit unique from North Weymouth because we're somewhat encumbered with covenants that are on the building because of how the building was built, and it was bequeathed, I think, by the Pratt family or what have you, and it limits right now what our reuse can be. So we don't have a reuse plan for that. It would be very unlikely that we would have the staffing to open it back up when you consider the amount of staffing that's needed to staff the new library, because it's, I forget the percentage, larger, roughly 50% larger, I think. So I think that people are going to love the new library. They do love the new library so far, and I think generally people are going to want to go there. We know that that's going to impact usage of the neighborhood branches. That was one of the calculations. It just is not economically feasible, and operationally it doesn't make sense. So it's change. I know people don't like change. I know it's convenient for some, but I think overall the plan that we are following now is more beneficial to the community.
Yeah, I think it would be hard to not be ecstatic over what's going on with that new library. It's the Taj Mahal of libraries. Is there a nicer library in the local towns?
And Pratt, of all 4 branches, by far had the lowest usage. I mean, this is a real stretch on Pratt.
So out with the old, in with the new. That's a sign of progress here as we move forward. Some things have to be shut down.
In the eyes of, what was his name?
A young lady by the name of Janet Burns.
What was it?
Janet Burns.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yep.
Janet. In the eyes of Janet, maybe not progress.
Beauty being in the eye of the beholder. I think Shakespeare once said, a literate reference for our literate library. All right, dear Mayor Bob, I was pleased to see that you opened a COVID-19 testing site at the high school. My daughter lives in Rockland and was wondering if this site is only for Weymouth residents, or would she be able to get a test there since it's so convenient to her home in Rockland? Please let us know. Thank you, from Gina.
So the way it was funded through the federal government, the CARES Act, and the paperwork requirements on this thing were just incredible. Most of the heavy lifting on the paperwork was done by Chief of Staff Langell. It consumed a huge amount of his time with the strings that are attached on this, et cetera. And even if we wanted to widen it based on the demand, the short answer is no. It's available for Weymouth residents. Right.
So all these sites in each particular town are only directly for...
Well, we're using the CARES Act money for it. Not all towns are using CARES Act money to do this, because the strings that are attached for the different uses that you can apply the CARES Act money for, it was a much higher level of paperwork compliance to use CARES Act money for this type of use. But we thought that was worth the extra effort to do so. The good thing about this too is once the vaccine becomes more available to us, we can convert the site to a vaccination site also.
Oh, excellent.
So right now, the answer would be no, for practical reasons and for the strings and legal reasons attached to the use of the money.
That CARES Act that you referred to, is that state money? Is that federal money?
Federal money.
Federal money, wow.
Yes.
So that's awesome. It's trickling right down to our town.
Actually, now there's some FEMA, I think might be some FEMA money applied to it too, which is passed through down, to the state, but bulk of it is CARES Act money.
Bob, shooting from the hip, how do you feel the town has been doing managing the COVID dilemma, from schools to, the general public to the administration of the government? Is it steady Eddie?
There's only so much we can do. We're doing the best we can. I think the partnership with South Shore Hospital, South Shore Health has helped us a lot in the early stages. We actually talked about that on the show, where a lot of the information that we had with them, and quite frankly, we wouldn't be able to do this testing site if it wasn't for the partnership we have with South Shore Health. It's their paramedics that are actually staffing it.
Excellent.
And we handled the paperwork end and the, CARES Act process, if you will, and South Shore's really helped us with the practical application and the management of it from a medical standpoint.
So that's been a great partnership then.
Yes. And the third partner in this obviously is the testing entity that we partnered with.
So that's
and I forgot the name right now, but
that's all right. But interesting. So it looks like we got a lot of the bases covered, and we're doing the best we can. I'd say the scuttlebutt from around town is that everybody's just trying to grin and bear it and hoping for better days, which 2021 should be bringing.
And it started off good. I used it. I was in and out of there in like 4 minutes.
Oh, wow.
Had the results in 12 hours. The use has grown. We had to work out some scheduling, because there was a backup that occurred, I think a 2-week backlog at one point. The problem we're having now is people who are making appointments and not showing up.
Ouch.
I guess because it's free, you make an appointment and then, it's not costing me anything to blow it off. And that's causing some scheduling problems. Just a couple of days ago, I think we had 20 no-shows over the course of a day.
Something like that.
And that gummed up the works a lot.
Is this available to all ages? Is all ages and all residents of the town? It doesn't matter.
Yeah, I
So
would
age
suggest go to the
restrictions or
town website, scroll it, and all the information's there.
Excellent.
Yep.
Excellent. Well, Bob, purposeful segue here to our next question that came in online. Dear Mayor, I know that the pandemic has been difficult for everyone, but I wish the Board of Health gave out more information about our numbers like they do in other towns. Why has Weymouth's Board of Health been so difficult when people are asking for information that could impact their own health? Thank you, from Lisa.
Well, I'm not familiar what every other town is doing, and I think what we're doing is within a range of what other towns are doing in terms of information. I know that people have complained about the timeliness of what's going up, but I can't speak for the health department on this one. I mean, I haven't monitored what every other town is actually doing on this.
Yeah, I mean, from a local level, how quickly can you disperse that data?
Well, I don't know what specifically the complaint is. I mean, the health department posts numbers. I think some people have complained that the numbers aren't as timely as other towns, but they're generally following, kind of what the state guidelines are on the information that's getting posted.
Yeah, and Lisa just specifically just says, I wish they gave out more information as far as exactly what she's referring to. Who knows, but all the best, Lisa, regarding gathering of that information. All right, Robert, we're going to keep moving down the line. Dear Mayor, just over a year ago, the town heard from 2 new developers for Union Point after the previous master developer went bankrupt. But we haven't heard a word about that project since. Will there ever be a substantial development going into that site? And how many years do we have to wait? Thank you, Adam Smith.
Will there be a substantial development? Yes, someday, for sure.
Can we quote you on that?
Well, I mean, where on the socio will there not be substantial development?
I mean, parcel of land's getting grabbed.
The sprawl out of Boston is significant, Population growth south of us exploded. Wait till these new census numbers come out and you see the growth in places like Abington and Hanover and Norwell and
Halifax.
Whitman. And yeah, I mean, so yes, there will be development. We're certainly, at the time of this question, a lot closer than we were not too long ago, the last time we provided an update. The short answer, after the SRA sent Kyle Corkum and L-Star Packing.
He's on the run.
They went through a process to bring in a new master developer. They settled on Brookfield Partners. The process has taken longer than we anticipated and hoped for because of the fact that Washington Capital, that took the property back in foreclosure and owns the property, controls the property, or most of the property. There are 2 other entities that control parcels there, but the bulk of it is Washington Capital that was managing the Carpenters Union Pension Fund, was in negotiations with Brookfield on the price that they wanted from Brookfield. And they were at odds for quite some time. Since the last update we provided, I know that the Carpenters Union, some committee that oversees the funds, agreed on accepting, if you will, or working with Brookfield Partners as master developer on the site. They've been doing their due diligence on everything associated with the purchase of the land. And the last update we got of a couple weeks ago was they were close to agreeing on a price.
Is the goal still to have a mixed-use residential and commercial development down there, or is it pretty much
The
residential?
goal would be reflected in what the master plan there calls for, which, by the way, probably we anticipate that Brookfield would come in and look for some changes to that because some of the reality, I mean, what's in the plan doesn't reflect the realities of the market. But yeah, I mean, you're going to have a commercial zone down there, entertainment commercial zone. If you recall back when the legislature passed the legislation creating the SRA, I mean, there's something like 24 liquor licenses available down there. So an insane amount of money.
I thought it was supposed to be 70% commercial initially too, coming out of the gate, but did that mean liquor licenses as well?
Yeah,
Holy
so
smokes.
you'll see restaurants, you'll see things like that at some point. There's a tenant I'm not going to talk about it, but there is a tenant in the wings that we love.
Excellent.
That's something unique to the area that would be a shot in the arm for that place. And once some of the stuff is
Chick-fil-A?
resolved, it's not Taco Bell either. So once some of the issues with Brookfield and Washington Capital have worked out and Brookfield gets total control, hopefully, there'll be some movement.
Well, on the sunny side of the street, there's a film in production down there right now. Isn't Leonardo DiCaprio supposed to be walking around town these days? Is this a good time to drop in the fact that I had dinner beside him about 5 years ago in Neptune in the North End, literally elbow to elbow with him? Couldn't have been a nicer
The only
guy.
DiCaprio reference I can come up with is one of the greatest concerts I ever saw was Jim Carroll Band, Nantasket Beach, Uncle Sam's.
Oh, hey now.
And he was obviously the author of the Basketball Diaries. It was his autobiography, and they made a movie out of it, and DiCaprio played Jim Carroll.
Yep, I recall it.
And it ruined it because there's no way, if you know anything about Jim Carroll's life and you read the book, that you can get your mind around DiCaprio playing him. It doesn't work.
Interesting. I can tell you he was a very kind gentleman. I had dinner with three other
DiCaprio
guys.
or Carroll?
It was DiCaprio, yes. And when he stood up after dinner, I said, hey, can I ask you for an autograph? He said, I don't sign things. I said, can I take a picture? He goes, I don't take pictures either. He goes, I don't even know what people are going to do with them. And I said, he goes, I'll shake your hand. And we shook hands. And he could have been a kinder guy at the end of the day. Well, stay tuned, as we say, and ask the mayor regarding the developments at Southfield. But it looks like you're feeling optimistic as far as, it's obviously the timeline is staggered because of a lot of balls in the air, but optimistically moving forward.
Well, I would always be optimistic about that amount of acreage in that proximity to Boston on a commuter rail line. Yeah.
Sure. And the development.
But you had, buffoons in there before that just...
We've all taken kicks in the pants as courtesy of their pratfalls, but
you know much about Brookfield. They part of the group. There's 2 or 3 partners in that group, but the main guy in this group is the guy that developed Pine Hills down in Plymouth.
Oh, geez.
Yeah. So they've got a local track record. They kind of know what they're doing.
One of the jewels of the South Shore, obviously. That's phenomenal. All right. Well, we'll keep our fingers crossed, and best of luck as you're navigating that course. Bob, this is from our arguably, Jeff, how many shows have we done? Have we done 90 now? Or? Yeah, I think the person that would win the prize for most frequent in
Ed Hartnett.
Ed Hartnett. As a matter of fact, who we are big fans of. Thank you, Ed, for all your work to date. All right, this one's a little longer, Bob, but here we go. From Ed Hartnett, Mayor Bob and Jim, Eve of Destruction Melody. Speaking of the Basketball Diaries. Dear Mayor.
Barry Maguire.
What was it? What was the band?
Barry Maguire.
That was his song?
I believe so.
And they tell
Jeff will check me on that.
All right, dear Mayor, you have made many advances in this town for which I applaud you.
Great. Okay, next question.
Why do you stink so much? No. The new Tufts Library, the upcoming Chapman Middle School.
Do you want to skim over that and just get to the butt?
Well, don't you want to be praised for a moment? You're taking up shots to the jaw. All right, the new Tufts Library, the upcoming Chapman Middle School, the parks, and your effort in trying to clean up shuttered buildings and abandoned ones, the work along the beaches, the Jackson Square revival, Columbian Square updates, and landing changes. 2 projects that I know you are not happy with. Union Point, you have no control over that project, and the digital billboards, which sounded like a good idea, but would have become a thorn in your side.
3-hour Zoom meeting on it last night.
He was just referencing that prior to the re-rolling tape here. All right, I believe this one tops the list, though, the compressor station. So hard fought by you and the other residents, but Governor Baker was non-existent in this fight. What is your most important...
Well, he was existent, unfortunately, on the wrong direction, but...
He was on the other side supporting the actual development, huh? All right, what is your most important project going forward that you would love to be done or started in 2021? I personally want to thank you for all your service as mayor since 2016. I am a proud resident for over 20 years, and I intend to stay here for a very long time. I want to thank you and your staff for making Weymouth a great place to live. Thank you, Ed Hartnett.
How did he word it? Number 1 project.
The you stink part? No. I believe that the one that tops the list is the compressor station, but I guess the question at the end of the day is, what is your most important project going forward that you would love to be done?
Closing Pratt Library. No, I'm kidding. I'm joking.
You just lost a senior vote.
Let me make a comment real quick on Baker. Yeah, he had a bite at the apple on this with a couple of state permits that were required, but the federal process really screwed us, which controlled most of this. So, we didn't have allies on either of those fronts, and we filed 22 lawsuits and fought, delayed the thing like 4 years through that process. But that one, as he said, a thorn in our side. Yes, billboards. By the time this airs, we will know whether or not we have a way out of the billboard situation, which I'm confident this agreement we came up with allows us to do and preserve some of the original benefit for the town. It all hinges on what the council is going to do on the 19th of January, which this will not be up by, likely.
Now, time out. Are you saying there's potential those things could come down?
We're not going to get into that with the signal we have left.
Okay, you got it.
But it'll be resolved by the time this airs. If the council puts the moratorium in place, Cove loses the ability to remediate 611 billboard. We lose the 45 acres of open space that's part of this deal from your friend Bristol. And we lose the ability to finance taking down, co-financing to take down the 3A billboards, among other things. And we end up in some litigation with them. The project's moving forward. Obviously, seeing the middle school, which is really going well in terms of where we are budget-wise and timeline-wise. Some of the same team that's responsible for the library is responsible for this, so they've got a good track record here in town. That's going really well. We will be having a topping off ceremony, actually probably around the time this should air.
It's moving that fast, huh?
Early February, we have a topping off ceremony.
Are they ahead of schedule, or are they pretty much right on time?
They're pretty much on time, yeah, slightly ahead. I want to say we're maybe at 25% right now as of the taping here. So I'm sure WETC will cover the topping off ceremony.
Do you need me for that, Jeff?
That's a milestone.
Just a test.
And it's funny, it reminded me about the library topping off ceremony. I actually quoted, when I signed the beam, I quoted Jim Carroll.
Those are people that died.
No. I quoted Jim Carroll when he was interviewed after the show down at Nantasket Beach, and he said, "It's great to listen to the radio, but you should read a book once in a while." Anyway, I wrote that on the beam. It's in the library somewhere. So back to this real quick. We want to see the school through in a successful fashion. And one thing we were working on earlier today, and I'm worried about speaking about this because I might upset the timing, but we're going to have some big news with the host community agreement money on the compressor station that we received. We've already purchased a new ladder truck and a new engine for the fire department
with that dough?
From those funds. We will probably be spending in the vicinity of, we're trying to keep it under $900,000. We're shooting for $850,000. But taking something that was bad in the compressor station and using the funds from that to do something good from an environmental standpoint. The compressor station of its day in the 1960s here in Weymouth probably was the incinerator that was built on the banks of the Weymouth Back River, an area of critical environmental concern, the closest ACEC river to Boston. And we've got a polluting facility there right now that is emitting asbestos, pigeon guano. It's a health hazard, a safety hazard, and it's certainly a blight on the landscape next to our new Osprey Overlook Park. So some of the funds from that mitigation agreement will be used to take that thing down. We should be announcing it around the time that this airs. So I hope we have our I's dotted and our T's crossed before Jeff gets this up, because he's going to preempt us on that.
Great news.
But we'll be taking that down. We've got a problem because we lease out some space on the stack to cell companies. The stack has problems. So we're giving them some notice to get their antennas down. We're giving them enough notice. Even though their leases are expired pretty much, we're going to allow them to take some time. So I would say we'll have a measure before the council very soon, and we'll have bids in probably by April, and we should have the project complete by September.
Son of a gun. Now, would you look to redevelop that space if that building came down, or what?
No,
What do you see
it's
usage?
zoned industrial, but we're going to roll it into Osprey Overlook Park So it'll be another trail along the perimeter, and
wow.
We'll have the ability to maybe do something of some sort there, whether it's playground structures or something at some point. But
Talk about great news. Well, listen, we're getting close to the...
It's been on our radar for a while. So those are two quick ones that come to mind, but if I sat and thought a little longer, we'd come up with a few more initiatives.
I know we're running out of time quick, but I thought you might touch on the development of Route 18. As a guy who's on that all the time, I'm very impressed with how quick that's coming together, quite honestly.
Well, that's a state project, so.
Okay. Well, are you satisfied with the progress there?
It's 4 years. It's a 4-year project. It is what it is.
Yeah, I think they've been managing the traffic flow, and the amount of that's already been finished seems to be.
You don't get my emails and my calls, obviously.
And I'm also on
Are
the
you
payroll
happy
for.
with wait a minute, as one who lives down there, are you happy with their temporary resurfacing throughout the project?
Yeah, I would have to say I'm not smart enough to probably know the difference, but I think it looks, so far so good. I think everything looks pretty damn good. Why, you're getting beat up?
That's
like crazy?
Jim Melody. I'm the mayor. That's Jim Melody. All complaints go to him.
I have a circular file right off to my left, which I will insert all these things. Hey,
I don't have complaints the way Gioso, the general contractor that got the contract on that, has interacted with us. I think he's open to some criticism on how some of the temporary resurfacing went. But it's tough because they've been juggling, trying to align one utility going in to do what they need to do. It's tough, but
well, I'll leave.
It's mostly behind us.
I'll try to get them steamed up as we look to wrap up this episode because that
we got time for one more.
Well, that last snowstorm that came around about 3 weeks ago, you may recall, I texted him out of the blue saying, hey, I think they did a great job cleaning up. It came out of nowhere. And then I hear scuttlebutt from some of our mutual amigos that you were getting the ever-loving crap beat out of you, that nobody was happy with the way the roads were plowed. I thought it looked great, so what do I know?
It's not our project.
Okay, what do I know? All right, listen, as we look to close out this episode of our inaugural episode of 2021 of Ask the Mayor, we want to remind everybody, please keep the questions coming in. It keeps the show going and much more interesting at AskMayorBob@gmail.com.
And I hope everyone likes our new prop.
AskMayorBob@gmail.com. And Bob, why don't you, because I think we only have about 60 seconds here, why don't you talk about this amazing
It's a quilt that was made in recognition of the air base. It's got a lot of history of the air base. It got Franklin Roosevelt on there, but patrolling the Atlantic and some of the historic aspects of what went on over there.
It's absolutely phenomenal. It's the coolest thing as heck. I said, Bob, where can I buy one? He said it was custom made right at the bottom.
Well, I don't know. No, but somebody brought it in and donated it to us. It's got a few stains on it, but it's a really cool quilt.
Would fit right in my house with those stains. I'll tell you what. I won't be happy until there's a little crochet of me over here, and maybe.
I would like to see if we can clean it up a little bit and actually frame it and hang it somewhere. It's really nice.
Yeah, it's a winner for sure.
I don't know the history on it. I don't know if they made these or if this is a one-off. I don't know that.
Yeah, interesting. Well, listen, I think at this point it's a good time to say goodbye to everybody and once again wish everybody all the best and keep smiling. Better days are clearly coming in 2021. The clouds are about to break for sure. Want to remind everybody again, please send all your questions to AskMayorBob@gmail.com. And Robert, any parting words of wisdom for
all complaints about Route 18 to Jim Melody at Jim Melody Route 18 /_potholes@gmail.com.
I can stand out there with like a receptacle. Then we want to remind everybody to stay tuned for Flipper. I don't think we've ever done Flipper.
If you have a question, please email the mayor at askmayorbob@gmail.com. That's askmayorbob@gmail.com. Maybe your question will be answered on the next episode of Ask the Mayor.